We have a lot of stuff to discuss today, some of it related to the NSA. There was a hearing where the House Intelligence Committee invited a number of individuals, including General Keith Alexander, who's the director of the National Security Agency, to Capitol Hill for what they considered, I guess, a friendly discussion of the agency's surveillance tasks. Edward Snowden was not mentioned by name, but he was certainly referred to a number of times. Everybody knew what the discussion was. And there's an interesting piece here. I'm going to read you a little bit of the transcript, and this is of Keith Alexander, the NSA director, being questioned by Chairman Mike Rogers of Michigan, who is on that committee. He's the chairman of that committee, like I said. And the questions are about what the NSA is and isn't able to do with regard to surveillance. And it's interesting because I had this thought when I was watching this part, and then yesterday I was listening to a little bit of Tom Hartman. And he had a similar idea about this. I think, anyway, I understood that he had a similar idea as I did. I'm going to read to you this part of the transcript. Rogers asks, is the NSA on private company servers, contractors, whatever the case may be? Alexander says it is not. Rogers asks, is the NSA able to listen to phone calls or read Americans' emails? Alexander says no. Rogers follows up. So the technology does not exist for anyone at the NSA to flip a switch and listen to any Americans' phone calls or emails? And Alexander says that is correct. And immediately my mind went to what he is saying. It may just be a lie, right? Let's assume it's not a lie. Let's assume it is correct according to the letter of the law. What about contractors? Why didn't Mike Rogers ask, do any contractors of the NSA who are security cleared have the ability to flip a switch and listen to phone calls or read emails? That question was conspicuously missing. And my thought when watching it was that there is a reason why that question was not asked, in order to be able to give this impression, give these answers, but not address the issue of the amount of power that the contractors have, and still leave, at first glance, this kind of hands clean attitude of the NSA.
Or did that question just, elude the person asking the questions?
I highly doubt it. I highly, highly doubt it. And then on State of the Union, Candy Crowley asked Rogers, same guy, if the intelligence agency still might be recording phone calls, but not listening to them, right? Which is an interesting distinction to say, we're not actively listening to Americans' phone calls. Fine. By the letter of the law, active might mean as they are happening, for example.
Right.
But that's different than recording them and being able to go back to them. And Rogers replied that this actually was occurring, but only in certain circumstances. We're now getting numbers about the number of attacks prevented through the various surveillance systems were enacted after 9/11. And Alexander said that over 50 attacks have been prevented either through the Patriot Act collection of phone metadata or the FISA collection of content from non-citizens. And we also heard about 4 specific attacks that were prevented. Again, we don't know, we weren't told necessarily from the latest NSA surveillance that we learned about, but more broadly from post 9/11 surveillance. Let's listen to a little bit of that testimony.
Of the instances. In the fall of 2009, NSA, using 702 authority, intercepted an email from a terrorist located in Pakistan. That individual was talking with the individual located inside the United States, talking about perfecting a recipe for explosives. Through legal process, that individual was identified as Najibullah Zazi. He was located in Denver, Colorado. The FBI followed him to New York City. Later, we executed search warrants with the New York Joint Terrorism Task Force.
Okay, so this is the type of story we heard about for 4 of these stories. So let's sum up where I am on this. I'm not at all surprised that the government, through its contractors, is doing this. I am not at all questioning whether it is or isn't legal, broadly speaking, although we have instances where it appears that the full legal process was not followed. I don't believe that we need to know everything the government is doing. In other words, I understand that sometimes things are not public for a reason. However, when people specifically feel deceived, which people do, many people do in this case, and the polls reflect it, the doublespeak lawyer talk around, well, we're not actively listening to phone calls, or the NSA itself doesn't have a switch that we can flip in order to read people's emails. I don't know that this is going to really bring on any more credibility or confidence in the government. However, it's unclear at this time whether it will matter. Will people really get out in the streets and protest this, or will it be this kind of quiet acquiescence where we get used to it and then we kind of move on?
Could be. We've certainly done that with other things. I mean, it's hard to say that we don't need anything like this if this is true, if this saved hundreds, maybe even thousands of lives. But I don't know. I don't really know what my stance is.